cowherd men said, "Since this boy performs such extraordinary activities, how could he warrant a birth among worldly men like us, a birth that for him would seem contemptible?" Purport. An ordinary living being cannot avoid unpleasant circumstances, but the Supreme Controller can always make perfect arrangements for his pleasure. Text 3. Ya sapta hayano bala Go ahead. Ya sapta hayano bala Kodainai kena lilaya katham bibrat girivaram pushkaram gajaradiva yaha who saptahayanaha 7 years of age, balaha a boy, korena with a hand, ekena one, lilaya playfully, katham how, vibrat he held up, girivadam the best of mountains, govardhan pushkaram a lotus flower, gajarat a mighty elephant, iva as. How could this 7-year-old boy playfully hold up the great hill Govardhan with just one hand, just as a mighty elephant holds up a lotus flower? Om Ajnana Timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakoda Mahyam Tathati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jutapadakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Shagra Chatam Shahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bālakasya etāni karmāṇi aty-adbhutāni vai katham arhaty asau janma grāmyeṣu grāmyeṣv ātma-jugupsitam. After Krishna has completed his Govardhan Lila, the cowherd men were marveling over Krishna's activities. Ati-adbhutāni, karmāṇy ati-adbhutāni vai. Asau, the acharyas comment that Krishna wasn't there. They were speaking some distance away from Krishna, because to speak in Krishna's presence would have been would have spoiled the rasa. It would have been inappropriate. So asau is a pronoun indicating that he's distant, and so now they're speaking about him. Karmāṇy ati-adbhutāni. His activities are ati-adbhutāni. Adbhuta means wonderful, unnatural. Tava kara kamala bare nakam adbhuta shringam. The hands of the Lord Nrsimhadev, are like lotus flowers, kamala. But adbhutam, there's something unnatural there, that in the midst of the lotus there are sharp nails. So adbhuta, unnatural, extraordinary, amazing. And ati-adbhutāni, ati means, we say in India, too much, exceedingly wonderful. Karmāṇy ati-adbhutāni vai, certainly extraordinary. Bālakasya, the activities of this boy. The cowherd men were wondering about Krishna, that maybe he's God, because to pick up a mountain like this is not possible for an ordinary human being. But this is the same child that we've seen grabbing onto the tails of a cow and being dragged through the mud and cow dung. Now, that's not the business of God. So what's going on? They were perplexed. And they're discussing these extraordinary activities. Under the influence of Yogamaya, the internal potency of the Lord, which to some extent reveals the nature of Krishna and to some extent conceals. If the cowherd men were firmly convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then how could they exchange loving dealings with him, treating him as their son, as their child? That wouldn't be possible. But on the other hand, they've just seen that he's lifted Govardhan Hill and held it for 7 days. So we have to get to the bottom of this. This is something extraordinary. Bālakasya. This boy has done this. Okay, he's a boy, but what of it? If he were a man, would that be okay? A man could lift Govardhan Hill? That would be acceptable, but a boy? So there, Bālakasya, this boy has lifted Govardhan Hill. Katham arhaty asau janma, and they're thinking, how is it that such an extraordinary boy has taken birth in a cowherd village? He's taken birth in a cowherd village. Vrindavan of Krishna's time was a village. Now Vrindavan is like a Mahanagar. It's a big city. Even 40 years ago, it was a little town with one main shopping street and some mostly temples. Now it's become a big city. But in Krishna's time, it was a village. Village means thatched huts and mostly cows and agriculture and not anything sophisticated, not even like Mr. Modi's modern villages where they've brought in electricity. There was nothing. Simple village, not Mathura, not Hastinapur, but Vrindavan, a cowherd village. So what is such an extraordinary boy doing, taking birth in a cowherd village? This is a low place. In America we call such a place the sticks. It means just the outskirts, the middle of nowhere. Jugupsitam, a mean, inconsequential, undeveloped, unsophisticated village. And this hero who has lifted Govardhan Hill, this heroic boy, has taken birth in this village. How is that? That means also that the real nature of Vrindavan was hidden from them. We hear that, Chintamani, Prakara Sadamasu, the houses are made of touchstone. The trees are desire trees. The water is nectar. But the cowherd men, by the influence of Yogamaya, were thinking, how has he taken birth in this poor, unsophisticated cowherd village? That means that the real nature of Vrindavan was also partially disclosed to them, but largely hidden. Yes. And their own nature was hidden from them. They're thinking that we're ordinary cowherd men living in this village, and they were not aware that we're the eternal associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Vaikuntha, everyone knows that. All the Vaikuntha Vasis have the understanding that we have the great privilege of being the humble servants of Lord Narayan, the Vaikuntha-pati, the Lord of Vaikuntha. They know that. And therefore they're very careful about how they go about their service to the Supreme, absolute Lord of everything. But Nanda Maharaj and the others were thinking, we're cowherd men. How has this boy taken birth in a village of cowherd men? Therefore, at some other point, Krishna showed them. They were wondering, I wonder whether, maybe he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maybe he'll give us liberation. And Krishna showed them everything, the whole spiritual world. But they forgot. All right. Similarly, Krishna showed to Yashodamai everything within his mouth. And she started getting all philosophical. Oh, that I was, by the illusory energy, I was thinking that I was the queen of Braja and that Nanda Maharaj is my husband and Krishna is my son. And then Krishna expanded his internal energy, and she just forgot all that. All right, no eating earth again. So this is the way. These are some of the ways that Krishna's internal potency nourishes the loving dealings between Krishna and his most intimate devotees. These dealings are not possible in Vaikuntha. They're possible only in Vrindavan, in Vraja. Vaikuntha, therefore, is a lesser manifestation, although it corresponds perhaps to our idea of what a kingdom of God would be like, where God is the King of Kings and he's surrounded by angelic persons who serve him with great respect. In fact, Braja is higher because there the respect is dropped and the Lord enjoys playing with devotees, with his devotees intimately. There's a sweetness found in Vrindavan which is not available in Vaikuntha. Some sweetness is there. The Lord is smiling. His smiling is sweet. But it's like the sweet smiling of a king. But in Vrindavan, all of those things are forgotten. And the Lord fully displays his sweet nature, playing on his flute, attracting the hearts of all the living beings, and exchanging loving dealings with them according to their own spontaneous desires. Yasapta hayano bala karane kaina lilaya katham bibrad girivaram pushkaram gajaradiva. Again, he's only 7 years old. How is it possible for a 7-year-old boy? One. How is it possible for a 7-year-old boy to do that? Well, do you think it would have been possible for an 8-year-old? A 20-year-old? But this is astonishing to them, that this 7-year-old boy, because that's how they think of Krishna. They don't think of Krishna as the personality of Godhead. He's our 7-year-old boy. And Karena Kena Lilaya, and he held up the hill with one hand. Again, if it had been two hands, would that have been all right? But it's extraordinary. He held up the hill with just the little finger of one hand. Lilaya, as if it were a game. Sportingly, he held up the hill as easily as everything, as anything. Katham bibrad girivaram, the greatest of mountains. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita we hear that Giriraj used to be so big that his peaks were touching the sky. The demigods in their airplanes, there were no red lights or something, so there was a traffic issue. Giriraj was so tall. And only after Krishna's disappearance did he start diminishing in disappointment from feelings of separation. So Krishna lifted Girivaram, this most majestic, greatest of mountains, Pushkaram, Gajaradiva, the way a mighty elephant, Gajarad, plays with Pushkar. Pushkar means a lotus flower. For an elephant, those trunks are so strong. If an elephant wants to pick you up with his trunk, he can just toss you like that. And a lotus for an elephant is nothing. And so Krishna picked up Govardhan Hill and held it up aloft as if it were a lotus flower, as easy as anything. So how is it possible? In these different ways, the cowherd men are expressing their astonishment and wonder. And it's astonishing also how the cowherd men are so absorbed in love of Krishna. This is the effect of love of Krishna. Even in regulative devotional service, one is conscious Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I have to do everything very carefully. But in this spontaneous love, they forget everything. They forget that Krishna is the personality of Godhead. They just love Krishna. They just love Krishna. So Prabhupada told the story also of how the gopis were chasing after Krishna, and Krishna, in order to conceal himself, changed himself into Lord Narayan. And the gopis saw, that's not Krishna, that's Narayan. Oh Lord Narayan, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Have you seen Krishna? This is their attraction. So the hearts of all the Brajvasis are in that perfect state of overwhelming, spontaneous love for Krishna. Therefore he's called Krishna, all attractive. He attracts the hearts of all the devotees. All right, are there some comments, questions? Technically, I have one more verse. Really? Okay. That would be verse 4. Tokena militakshena putanaya mahojasaha pitastana saha pranai kaleneva vayastanoho. As a mere infant who had hardly yet opened his eyes, he drank the breast milk of the powerful demoness Putana, and then sucked out her very life as well, just as the force of time sucks out the youth of one's body. Purport. The word vayaha in this verse indicates youth or lifespan in general. With irresistible power, time takes away our life. And that time is actually Lord Krishna himself. Thus, in the case of the powerful witch Putana, Lord Krishna accelerated the time process and within an instant withdrew the duration of her life. Here the cowherd men mean to say, how could a mere infant who could barely open his eyes so easily kill a very powerful demoness? Now they're reviewing the pastimes of Krishna. How is it possible? How is it possible? How is it possible? All of Krishna's activities are astonishing. Ati-adbhutāni, exceedingly amazing. All right, now are there any questions or comments? Krishna, 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 Krishna.
Maharaj, in the 13th chapter, when Krishna became all the cowherd boys and and the calves, Haribol. They said, I mean, as individual souls, we're actually Krishna, we're part of Krishna, but he himself expanded as all the calves and cowherd boys. How is that any different than just the individuals who are part in Krishna and the replicas that he made of the cows and cowherd boys? I mean, Krishna, you understand the question? The living entity is also Krishna.
Living entities are also Krishna. Jivanam sarvabhuteshu. In Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says, I'm the jiva in all bodies. So how is the jiva different from these expansions that Krishna showed when he appeared as all the calves and cowherd boys in the Brahma Vimohan Lila? Is that the question?
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada explains that generally the cowherd boys and calves were all Krishna Shakti. They were energy of Krishna. Among Krishna's energies, Prasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shriyate, among his various energies, the Jiva Shakti is one. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Gyakya Tata Para. The Jivas are the superior energy of Krishna, the material energy, avidya, karma, sangyanya, tritiya shakti rishyate. Material energy is called inferior, and the living entities are the superior energy of Krishna. So that's the usual, that's what we are. We're all jivas, tiny sparks of Krishna's energy. Although Krishna says, Jivanam sarvabhuteshu, I'm the jiva in all bodies, it doesn't mean that every jiva is God. Krishna also says, Jashanam makaras chasmi, among the aquatics, I'm the shark. So it doesn't mean that every shark is God. Ashvata sarvavrikshanam, among the trees, I'm the ashvata tree. So it doesn't mean every ashvata tree is now God. But these are selected examples of powerful or beautiful or powerful or exceptional manifestations of Krishna's energy. So that's what we are. We're little sparks of Krishna's energy. But after, and that's who Brahma stole. He stole the cowherd friends and the cows who were part of Krishna's energy. But when Krishna duplicated the cows and calves, now they were all Krishna. They weren't Vishnu Shakti anymore, they were Vishnu. That's called Swamsa. There are two kinds of expansions of Krishna, Swamsa and Vibhinangsha. Vibhinna Angsha means the separated portions, who are small, and Swamsa means the integrated portions, plenary portions, that's Prabhupada's word, fully powerful expansions, practically identical with the Lord himself. They're not the energy, they're the source of the energy. So now all of these cows and friends, they were Krishna. And therefore the cows who were usually so affectionate to Krishna were now so affectionate to their calves because those calves were Krishna. And the women of Vrindavan, who were usually so affectionate to Krishna more than to their own sons, were now equally affectionate to their sons because they were all Krishna. Not parts of Krishna, they were Krishna. So that's, Krishna expands in two different ways as Swamsa, as plenary portions. One is absolutely identical. When Krishna married 16,108 queens, well, 16,100 queens, he expanded himself into 16,100 Krishnas, all identical. When Krishna danced with all the gopis, he expanded himself into as many gopis as there were. And each Krishna was identical. So that's one way that Krishna expands himself, absolutely identical expansions. And another way is they're identical with him, but they look different in some way. They have different features. Of course, he appears as a fish, as a tortoise, as a half man, half lion. Or he appears as all these cowherd boys, or he appears as Balaram. Balaram's no one other than Krishna. But Krishna's black, Balaram's white, Krishna's younger, Balaram's a little older. Krishna likes Arjuna, Balaram likes Duryodhana. There are some differences. So when Krishna expanded as the cows and cowherds, they were all different. Each boy was down to the last detail. He was the boy. Each woman in Vrindavan, this is my boy, this is my boy, this is my, because they were all different. They all had their individual characteristics, their individual nature, individual dress, individual, as everyone here is individual, we're all different. So all the boys were different, but each one was Krishna. So that's another way that Krishna expands. Is that okay? Something else? Yes, Radhesh.
We hear in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, dharma projita kaitavotra. Kick this out, dharma artha kama moksha vancha. And when Vyasadeva is feeling some distress that all of his writings haven't given him satisfaction, Narada Muni uses this word that jugupsitam, what you've written is abominable. You know, it's just encouraged advancement of materialistic civilization. And I couldn't help but notice that it's sort of the reverse of that in the first verse today, where they're saying, never mind, you know, advancement of civilization, the simplicity of Vrindavan is jugupsitam for someone so wonderful as you. And I was wondering if you had any comments on that, just the dichotomy there.
Yes, of course, much can be said about the worthlessness of Vedic literature compared to Bhagavatam, but apart from that, there's a reversal here. That in one side, there's two reversals. One, it seems, how could such a great boy take birth in such an insignificant village? So that's surprising. But on the other side, it's surprising that Vrindavan could be thought of as an insignificant village because it's greater than Vaikuntha. Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful session. And I had one question. In ISKCON, we worship the deities with awe and reverence. Awe and reverence.
You worship the deities with awe and reverence.
But
yes.
To approach Krishna, that awe and reverence is kind of, they say it's an obstacle.
Your microphone is too far from your mouth.
Okay. So that awe and reverence is kind of obstacle, they say, right, to approach Krishna?
No, it's not an obstacle.
But
Awe and reverence is not an obstacle for approaching Krishna. It's a prerequisite.
Prerequisite, yes.
Without awe and reverence, we're not going to approach Krishna. It's not that this awe and reverence, if we're an obstacle, why would the spiritual master ask us to do it? Here, let me order you to do something that's going to stand in the way of your spiritual progress. Why would he do that? It's an advantage for approaching Krishna. At our stage, to try to imitate the Brajbasis, that would be an obstacle. Krishna would look and see, look at this guy, he's faking it. He's trying to pretend that he's like Nanda Maharaj or Yashoda Mai or Sridham or Sudam or the gopis. And look at him. He's lusting after all the girls. He gives up his meat, he puts off his service so that he can steal some Mahaprasadam. So that's the highest love, but that highest love you don't get just by trying to jump to it. One has to go through the various stages. Ado shraddha, sadhu sangota, bhajana kriya. So by worshipping the deity in awe and reverence, we'll come to the stage of spontaneous love. If you skip that awe and reverence, you'll come to the stage of spontaneous duplicity, imitation, and falsity, which is not favorable. Is that okay? I make too many decisions, just send the microphone. Prithu Prabhu is there. I just made a decision anyway.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. There is one wonderful example. Sometimes in Prabhupada's time, one man was faking it. He faked that he was in Rasabhav, and there was a commotion here in the temple. Prabhupada heard it in his room. He said to his servant, in this case Harikesh, please go and see what is happening. So he came back, there's a man in total absorption of Krishna, rolling over the floor, hairs on end, chanting Krishna, Krishna, people are touching his feet. So Prabhupada says, all right, take my cane and beat him. So Harikesh said, how can I do that? You do it. So he went and beat him, and the man got up, became so angry, cursing Harikesh and yelling and screaming, and ran out of the door. And Prabhupada laughed. He said, just see, he's fake. He's faking it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Keshav Maharaj.
Maharaj, so the Brajavasis have this doubt about, whether Krishna is supreme, and then this doubt is like covered, and sometimes it seems as though that it's the intensity of their love which kind of kicks that doubt out, and then we also hear it's Yoga Maya which is covering them. So do these two work together? Is it the intensity of their love and Yoga Maya as a combination which covers them, or
the intensity of love? Yogamaya arranges things according to the love of the devotees. He arranges with Yashoda Mai, arranges to cover Yashoda Mai's vision, so that when Krishna is showing everything within his mouth, she thinks, more nonsense. The Yogamaya acts in such a way as to help, to, what shall we say, to nourish the different feelings of the particular devotees. Okay. Something else? Yes.
Maharaj, thank you very much for a wonderful class, enlightening. But in connection with the Prabhu who asked the question earlier, at what point would we know that spontaneous love or Raganuga Bhakti would manifest? Is it Srila Prabhupada or some senior Vaishnava, either Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, revealing it in our heart?
Spontaneous means it will be spontaneous. How do you know when you're hungry?
So then, makes sense. Then how do we know one is pretending or one is spontaneous?
Others we can see. The Rupa Goswami gives the hint that don't look at the tears in the eyes and the shivering of the body and all of that kind of stuff. Look at detachment. Look at detachment. Bhaktir parasyanubhavo viraktir anyatrachai. When there's genuine bhakti, there'll be detachment. Janayati ashu vairagyam jnanam Jayadvaita. And so he's in spontaneous love of God, and he's keeping a girlfriend. He's in spontaneous love of God, and he's attached to sense gratification? No. So Rupa Goswami directs us, see who's always eager to glorify the pastimes of Krishna. See who doesn't waste a moment of time, because he's always engaged in Krishna's service. In this way he gives some signs, not what everybody's looking for. Oh, he's rolling in ecstasy. Oh, what a saint. But see how he's engaged seriously in Krishna's service, single-mindedly in Krishna's service, and rejecting the false engagements offered by the illusory energy. That we have to say.
So, Gadadhar Pandit and Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Gadadhar Pandit was mistaken. How do you...
Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Gadadhar Pandit, mistook him for an ordinary materialist. So what about that? First of all, that was Gadadhar Pandit. He applied that standard. He didn't just sentimentally think, well, this, that. He applied that standard. It appears that he's very much attached to sense gratification, because that's how we judge, and that's how we discriminate. So the first thing was that Gadadhar Pandit applied the usual ruler that we would be expected to apply. Is he living like a renounced person or a detached person? No, it looks like he's living like a sense enjoyer. Then how is he? Why should I be hearing from him? So that was the first point. Second point was that he was extraordinary. That the Pundarik Vidyanidhi, it was shown that some peacock feather came into his vision and he fell apart. The same person who was very carefully, what do we say, twirling his mustache or what have you. Now all of a sudden he's totally falling apart. So the truth came out. But the next thing is that this is extraordinary. Just like Ramananda Roy. His behavior was extraordinary. Training young girls to dance. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita cautions us, only Ramananda Roy. This is not possible for anyone else. If you see somebody else doing these things, toss him out on his ear. Because only Ramananda Roy can do that. Is that okay? Otherwise we shouldn't be bluffed. Generally, it is what it looks like.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
But only in some extraordinary case it wasn't. But generally it is. When you see someone who looks like he's messing around with young girls, what is he doing? He's messing around with young girls. He's a sense enjoyer. But in the case of Ramananda Roy, he was something else. But that's for the super exalted. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, for Raganuga Bhakti, in the definition it mentions only as lobha.
Only?
As lobha as the qualification.
Yes.
And in many places we hear it only appears at the stage of nishtha. So nowhere it is described that it...
No what?
It's described that it is nishtha is the stage, but
Yes.
only lobha is being mentioned. So how
Only
do we...
what? Only
lobha.
Only lobha is mentioned, nishta is mentioned, yeah.
Nishtha is not said directly.
So
So how do we understand that? And
how
whether
do we understand what?
Raganuga begins at the stage of Nishtha?
I haven't studied the matter, I can't tell you. Prabhupada doesn't talk about Raganuga Bhakti starting at the stage of Nishtha, that I remember. Maybe it's there someplace. So I don't have much to say about it, except that it means it's not for kids. It's not for the neophytes. Someone's on the stage of Raganuga Bhakti and he's not even interested in associating with devotees. His anarthas are evident all over the place, and he's got Raganuga Bhakti. Get off it. You know, it's like someone is introduced to you as a nuclear physicist, and within 2 minutes you find out that he doesn't know calculus. Come on, get off it. You know, at least you have to know basic and advanced mathematics. Then we can talk about nuclear physics. But if you're still on the grade school level, you don't know how to, how to use a calculator or a slide rule in the old days. You come back later. We're not going to talk with you about nuclear physics. It's a bluff, or it's a delusion. So one has to. It means these things come at the appropriate stage of advancement, which is why Prabhupada didn't have us like, on the Raganuga Bhakti fast track. In America now, if you want to skip all the rigmarole of the security at the airport, you can pay $10 or something and you get fast tracked. You can't do that with Raganuga Bhakti. Go down to Loy Bazaar, buy, 1,000 rupees worth of books, spend a few weeks, and then boom. It doesn't work that way. It works by service. The essence of every relationship, whether it's conjugal relationship, or the parental relationship, or the friendly relationship, or the servant relationship, or even if it's counted as bhakti, the neutral relationship. The essence of all of them is service. So Srila Prabhupada's instruction to us was serve the instructions of Krishna and the spiritual master with steadfast dedication, and in the mature stage these things will be revealed to you. Prabhupada's instruction about lobha was first deserve, then desire. Lobha means desire, greed, desire. First deserve, then desire. Then okay, the bell has tolled. So we'll stop here. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.